Hi, my name is Cynthia Natasha Osaji Benedict. I am an African woman. I'm a Nigerian woman. I'm a woman. The standards that have been set for women in Nigeria is something that has been debated for years. Traditionally, women were just meant for a specific role, a specific career, a specific place in society, preferably unseen. But nowadays, every Nigerian woman has finally found her voice, and even the one whose voice has not been heard has been made known by other women who have championed our cause. We have women that have been tagged the word feminist, and not necessarily in a good light, but in a bad light, because they speak for women's empowerment, women's rights, women's place in society, women's equality, women's voice to be heard. So we've been tagged the feminists. We just want the simple things. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just means that it's time for our voice to be heard. It's time for parents to stop telling their children, their daughters, it's your marriage, you should make it work. It's time for some parents to stop making their daughters stay with men that abuse them and do not appreciate them. It's time for parents to stop making their children stay with men who do not appreciate and value their wives, who find it okay to cheat on their women, and who find it normal that they cheat. It's time for society to stop making excuses for men who abuse women. It's time for society to also stop making excuses for men who do not know what it means to stay faithful, who decide that flirting and sleeping with other women should not necessarily mean the end of their marriage. It's time for societies to stop pushing the women to aspire to be great wives, to aspire to be married, instead of aspiring to find their place.
It's 13th of October. They gave my father a call that my 16 years old was pregnant. This rape of a teen has affected Kike. Most times she cries a lot in the room. Now, BP is on the high side, 135, 140. Auntie, she can't get better. Can you make a test? I do test in my uncle. Or she can't now. No, but I have one a beer. No, give boom mad. No, I got for raising a jigoti or totazin now, but I'm mad. From then, the teen near is near ish now, about soya. I could some more macara this injury. And two, I don't make you jack on the women because my papa, the thing they boom, my era set on at home.
We cannot have sustainable development without taking that particular issue of sexual and gender-based violence in Nigeria very, very seriously.
And basically, the reason for doing that is that we recognize that sexual assault, has a number of different numbers of impact. It is a medical issue, so health impact. It is a justice issue. It's a crime. It also requires some counseling because it affects the psychology of the person involved.
Like I tell most men when women talk about what it means to be female in Nigeria, the response needed is not justification or ridicule. The appropriate response is empathy and deliberate intention to help solve the problem. In religious spaces, homes, streets, wherever we are not safe, the police arrest us and demand rape for bail. Our bodies are places where men come to pitch their tents and tell us what to do and what not to do. I must add that it is incredibly sad when we constantly downplay the urgency of the need to give attention to those whom our culture habitually victimizes, so that our first instincts are usually to shut them up or try to justify their experiences with culture and tradition. I have also seen a lot of men who get their egos pricked when these conversations about females in Nigeria spring up and begin to also state what men go through, as if to cancel out the reality of the Nigerian woman. Feminism is not about the opposite sex bashing or stringing the male gender up as Neanderthals. It is about not bashing women for the very same thing men will do and barely get a reprimand, or at best receive a half-hearted slap on the wrist for. I began writing this book because my experiences has taught me, and quite frankly so, that trying to explain to people the reality of a woman and how we have to constantly deal with gender stereotypes, especially in Nigeria, is a lot of work. and requires quite a lot of talking, and which honestly I was getting tired of. I figured it would just be easier to pen down my thoughts and share with anyone who still insists that feminists are simply dramatic rabble-rousers with no real cause to fight for. So what does it mean to be a female in Nigeria? The truth is, as women, we face reasons to fight for the respect of our identities every day, whether it is graciously cooking at home and taking to work for our male colleagues, only for them to leave the plates for us to clear, or owning a car from our sweat and hearing people allude to some phantom sugar daddy or married lover as our benefactor. The battle never ends. In a lot of cases, we cannot go to clubs or lounges to have a good time by ourselves just because we can and we want to, because we face the danger of being tagged prostitutes waiting for a male clientele. There is also having to bear the trauma of your rape alone, because your rapist is a highly respected member of society or family, or because your family wants to keep the family name sacred and not want it tainted by any kind of scandal. The list goes on and on. Every woman in Nigeria has, in one way or the other, experienced the painful stereotypes and marginalization and unfairness that comes with being female in Nigeria.
It's time. It's time we teach our daughters to aspire to climb corporate ladders, to become entrepreneurs, to become world household names, to become known in society, to become the next president of Nigeria, to become the next leaders of our society, instead of teaching and raising our girls to aspire to the great achievement of marriage. I'm not saying marriage is a bad thing, and I'm not saying marriage is the end of the road. I'm saying marriage is something that should be gotten into, and not something that should be the end of the road for a woman. What of the man? We should begin to teach our men that there are better ways to treat women. We should begin to teach our men that no means no and consent is key. We should begin to teach our men that you should respect and honor your wife. We should begin to teach our men that it is wrong to flirt, to cheat on your wife, on your spouse, on your partner. We should begin to teach our men that raising your hand on a woman is not the way. It is not the way to show your power. It is time to begin to teach our men that there are better ways to execute power and to show power and to use power. We should begin to unlearn and relearn things as our society continues to evolve. We should begin to teach our children that there is power in your voice and that equality is only right because everyone should be equal.